Everybody, welcome back, and holy Webflow is amazing.
Last week you called me, the way you're talking is driving me insane. Hello.
As you can probably tell by the intro that today's video is going to be dedicated to Webflow and my experiences of using and learning Webflow over the last few weeks, and my thoughts on whether or not I think it could be a good tool for you to add to your toolkit for your next design project. I've avoided Webflow and no-code tools in general for as long as I can remember, essentially for the life of no-code tools, because I don't like to mess up my workflows. I don't like to introduce new tools and new technologies and software to my workflow process if I don't feel like they can be something that I can use going forward. I've had this experience with no-code tools before where I've tried them out, and what happens is they just don't catch on in the community, they don't become popular, and they end up just falling away or deprecating themselves. And then you're stuck in this situation of having to rebuild your websites, rebuild everything that you built on top of this technology. And it's just a total pain. One of the only ones, not a no-code tool, but a tool in general that I've used over the years to build websites is Wordpress. And that's stuck around forever. It's become a little dated right now, but it's something that I have invested myself in and that I felt comfortable investing my workflows in, and it's still around. It's been around forever. It takes up 30, 40, 50% of the web, whatever that figure is now, but it's huge right now. And I think that Webflow can definitely be something to replace this. It's a super powerful tool, and I've decided to invest my time in it and to learn this technology. And I started by kicking off a project, rebuilding my personal website to kind of get my feet wet. So that was reason one. And reason two that I've avoided learning no-code tools over the last few years is just the general negative sentiment in the community. I feel like no-code tools, Webflow and others have gotten kind of a bad rap in being something that's going to come take our jobs and it's going to replace developers in the future. And there's a little bit of that. There's some of that to be said that's possibly true. Not in its current state. I think more now it's not replacing those data-rich applications or those mobile applications that developers are building. That is not what Webflow is good for in its current state. What it's good for right now is building front-end technologies. It's good for building a website from scratch really quickly, templating stuff, drag and drop, allowing you to prototype, all these things it's really strong at. And that's why I wanted to learn it, get into it, and take a closer look. So I shamefully have been avoiding Webflow for 7+ years. I just never even gave it its fair shake, and I never gave it a shot, never tried it out, never even cracked it open until just recently. I kind of feel bad about that now. I really wish that I would have introduced this into my workflow earlier, but I avoid these types of tools and things like this until I'm sure they're established in the industry and they're nice and stable, because I don't want to build websites on top of something like this and then a few years down the road, they deprecate the tool, it shuts its doors, and then you're stuck with an old website that you have to either convert or rebuild, and it's just a pain in the butt. But I've been watching YouTubers for years now that have been using this, like Ron Segal and others, that have completely implemented this into their workflows for their side work as well as their day jobs, and are doing so quite successfully. So I figured with everything going on right now, with being stuck at home, having a little extra free time, that I would dedicate some time to learning Webflow and give it a fair shot. And after getting into it, this tool is absolutely mind-blowing. It's amazing. It allows you to do stuff so much quicker and avoid all of those npm runs and npm builds and npm installs and are all of your WordPress plugins up to date? Is it crashing? Is it just all of that stuff as front-enders that we have dealt with for years? It takes all of that away and makes it all so much more simplistic. Webflow allows all types of different people with all types of backgrounds and different levels of experience to build websites and build small applications quickly and efficiently. Things like accessibility. Accessibility has become very important. It's always been important, but especially over the last 5 years, 10 years maybe, accessibility has become something that is super important to have included in every website for search rankings, just to have it in there for people of need that need this type of stuff. But that's all built into Webflow. You get that out of the box. It includes all of that stuff like ARIA tags and all of that for you. Things like responsiveness and flexibility of websites going from desktop to tablet to mobile. There's a little tab switcher on the top that allows you to switch between each one. Webflow makes smart guesses about how everything should size up and down anyway, and then you just choose each different tab and tweak it to your liking to make everything look great on mobile. Stuff like that is all done for you out of the box. Things like e-commerce, something that I have avoided for years in my career. I did not want to deal with handling people's money, people's credit cards. I would lose sleep over that overnight. So I just avoided all of that over the years. And now it's a drag and drop type thing. You drag in your cart, you drag in all of this stuff, you can customize it and theme it. It's not all cookie cutter stuff. You can theme it to your liking. You hook it up to Stripe and you're ready to go. All right, let's take a real quick look at my personal website. This is thomaswicker.com. I have been building and maintaining this website for years. And basically it just tracks a little bit about me, my Twitter feed, and of course my YouTube stuff, as well as my portfolio, some recommendations, just kind of an extension of my personal brand and LinkedIn portfolio. I wanted to rebuild this because I am so familiar with it, and I figured it would give me a good step up on learning Webflow and avoiding some of the pitfalls that I might run into with creating a brand new design or a brand new website. So I have been in HTML and CSS for 15 years now. So I'm very familiar with a lot of the ins and outs of things like the CSS box model, responsiveness on websites, and things like that. But I assumed, honestly, this would take me a couple days, if not weeks, to still learn, even with my current knowledge. I'm not even kidding. I sat down at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I dedicated the whole day to it. By 4 p.m., I completely learned the basics of Webflow, even some advanced stuff like animations. I had completely rebuilt my website from ground up in Webflow and launched it on my URL. Now that is super powerful. So of course this means for people with experience in web design, web development, this is going to be a pretty easy transition for you. And even for you noobs out there, it's okay if you don't know this stuff too, because it is the whole idea of no code. You don't have to know code necessarily to be able to use Webflow. All in all, I just love the user experience of the Webflow platform. They made an avalanche of really super smart decisions about how to lay things out, how to present complex things to the user, like the CSS box model, HTML layering, CSS cascades. All of that stuff is abstracted away, and you get presented with this more drag and drop interface and this no code interface, as well as these tree structures and things like that just show you where you're at, what item you have selected, what it's labeled. If we had this stuff in CSS and HTML for the last 10 years, I just would have been a dreamboat for me. This type of stuff just makes it so easy to tell where you're at in the code and what you're affecting with your design. There's so many small additions and adornments to the user experience that just make it an absolute pleasure to use. It's with the small things. I had so many moments when I was learning this that Saturday that I had the grasp my pearls moment where I was like, wow, I cannot believe that they made it this easy to use or this easy to do X task. So for example here, if we want to pick a color and we come up to our eyedropper tool, we go over, we pick this green. I noticed right away when I started using this that it smart suggests that you call it green yellow. This can save you a ton of time. I can't tell you how many hours, collective hours over my career now I've probably spent. What am I going to call this class? Like, how do I name this? And what pattern do I want to use? And what do I call this color? And you sit there like, should I call it seafoam? Like all those things I've spent so much time on. And it's important because you're building a framework for a website and things need to be intelligently labeled. But Webflow does this for you. They make these smart suggestions and it allows you to just hit create. Now you have this green color, hideous by the way with text, unreadable, but it just calls it green yellow and you're done. And it does this smart suggest thing with class names and IDs and many other places in the software where it just automatically suggests what you should call it. So if you don't want to spend the time to name something, you don't have to do that anymore. And one of my favorite things about Webflow that I just truly love, especially when combined with Figma, is that you can edit in browser. I don't need to have an application installed any longer. I don't have to have VS Code with all of my plugins. I don't have to have Node installed and my preprocessor ready to go. All that stuff is gone. I can be at my daughter's school. I can be at a family member's house with a 15-year-old PC. I can be on an iPad. I pull up webflow.com. I sign into my account. I start making edits and it's done. And the cool thing is with something like WordPress, you had to deal with putting it up on your server, making sure everything's synced up. Here, all you have to do is make an edit. You come up to the publish button, you publish to your domains, and then you come over to your website and you'll now see this change live. Super, super powerful. And the last thing I wanted to highlight here today is the Webflow community. And that's because you always need a good community behind any new piece of design software, development software that you're learning because you want to be able to Google things, Stack Overflow it, YouTube it, whatever. And Webflow has this covered. I don't know if it's because it's always been this strong of a community or if it's just because it's been out there for 7, 8 years now, and it's built this community. But you can go on Twitter and ask questions, and people are super responsive and super helpful. There is a whole entire Webflow University course on YouTube that covers pretty much every aspect of Webflow in these nice, short 2 to 5 minute bite-sized videos. And the presenter on those is absolutely hilarious. So it's just a good community overall, which makes it more fun and easier to learn. All right, so enough gushing about Webflow for one day. It's just that I truly, legitimately am excited about this tool and adding it to my toolkit. And I haven't been this excited about anything in a long time. I don't get this inspired about new design and development tools that often. Probably Sketch, maybe the last one, and preprocessors. I was definitely excited about both of those. But other than that, it doesn't happen very often. So I really wanted to share my experiences with this on the channel and hopefully get some of you inspired out there to pick up Webflow and learn it yourself and integrate it into your workflows. And if you did like this video, make sure that you like the video and hit the like button. It does help me out. And subscribe to the channel, and then also hit the bell if you want to be notified of future videos like this one on the channel, especially in the Webflow series. And until the next one, I will see you then.